Hello, and welcome to another Apex Happy Hour. Tonight is a super exciting night. We are joined, I'm Leslie Connor, and I'm joined with Marie Vibbert and Will Sobel, who is normally the man behind the camera, but he's in front of the camera tonight. Super exciting news. If you have not head over to Twitter or to Kickstarter, Robotic Ambitions has funded. So Marie is here tonight because she is one of the amazing authors who Jason and I asked to submit a story to be part of the anthology. And so we're here tonight just to kind of chat about robotic ambitions and writing and all those things that kind of go into so we've asked you for a story, Marie. What happens now?
What happens now? Yeah, I have to write one. I've actually, no, it's really exciting. I've always wanted to be asked to write for an anthology. I did get asked by a very, very adorable, sweet little amateur anthology that made no money and paid no money once. And then I got asked for like a shared world thing, which was also okay, but it was like a share anyway. But this is like and then there was the charity anthology, but this is like you guys actually said, yeah, you'll pay me, um, no matter what.
Yes, we
So,
are paying.
so to me, that feels like a big deal. So I can stop saying, yeah, but I haven't really been asked to submit yet. I mean, not really, because we always come up with reasons to downplay everything. But yeah, I have actually, well, I've got like a story that you might like that's in the trunk, and I have a story that I just finished. My writing workshop is going to look at that you might like. And I have a story that I just wrote about half of, which I also think would be good for the anthology. So anyway, I like robots. So this was always going to be, there's always going to be a lot of robots for me to offer. Sorry if I am planning on sending you three stories that you can pick from.
Oh, well, hey, I like that. I like having choices. Um, it is funny that you're like, oh yeah, I've got this and I've got this and I've got this, because sometimes you always one thing when you are asking authors to be part of a project, even if they say yes, like you have this fear in the back of your mind as an editor, like what if they have nothing? Like what if
What
like
if
it comes to the time and just nothing comes to them? But I think that
What if the
the
basement floods? What if their grandfather dies? Anything can
Mhm.
happen. Anything can happen.
anything could happen. I mean, really, like especially in the world we live in, like you never know. But it's one of those things where you're like, well, we're hoping for the best, and I'm very excited with the lineup of the authors that we have so far, and I'm super excited to dig into the slush pile because um I love robot stories. I love when I come across them in the Apex slush. So Oz is going to decide to bounce the ball right under the table tonight. Sorry, guys.
Oh, that's okay. I am dealing with a pit bull who, every time I stop petting, pushes her butt against me. So,
Classic.
I was going to make myself a cocktail and I was going to leave it up to the people in the chat to tell me which alcohols to put in.
Ooh,
Ooh.
that's dangerous.
Yeah.
I'm trusting you guys. So, I've got some scotch. This is just, the blended scotch. I've got Four Peel gin. This is a Ohio gin. It's really tasty. I've got knockoff Saint Germain, Saint Elder. It's an elderflower liqueur. I've got Chairman's Reserve spiced rum and Frangelico. This is a hazelnut alcohol.
Oh,
Hmm.
wow. Chris is in the chat and he says all of them. So
All
it,
of them. You want me to mix all of these?
it sounds
I
like
think
you.
all of them, Marie may not make it through the rest of the show.
Uh huh.
Well, maybe if I do like the small shot.
I
So,
was gonna say if you've got some Coke, you can maybe make yourself a Long Island iced tea, which is most of those.
I do have some Coke. I can add some Coca-Cola, but I'd have to like leave the camera, and I don't want to do that. So we're just gonna have to go without the Coca-Cola. in the Long Island.
Okay.
Okay, we'll call this the Long Island Sewer District.
Oh, Marie.
I have a friend who lives on Long Island. I wonder how she's doing. Or she grew up on Long Island. My college roommate Malini grew up on Long Island. I got to visit her once there. It was very cool. And Jin.
You are a brave, brave soul.
Uh-huh.
Me, I just
I'll do
opened my
anything for
bottle of
publicity.
wine.
I'll do anything for publicity.
No, don't say that. Don't say that on camera.
I know,
Well,
that's dangerous.
Probably not.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean, it's already
dangerous.
funded, so I'm good, right? No pressure, right?
Chris, in the chat, Chris called it a strong island.
A strong island. Okay, we're gonna see what this tastes like. I'm not sure that these flavors are gonna blend,
Yeah, I can't imagine that they do.
but here goes nothing.
The spiced rum with the Frangelico probably would have been
Really nice,
tasty.
yeah. But this was all to show off my cocktail shaker, which is shaped like a rocket ship.
Mm-hmm.
And the story is, I got this for Christmas in like 2014 or so, 16, somewhere around there. I don't remember. Point is, I got it for Christmas. I posted a picture on Facebook of myself holding it up, saying, "Look what I got." And I got an alarming number of people who said, "Holy shit, you got a Hugo?" No, sweeties, it's a cocktail shaker.
It's better than a Hugo.
I was gonna say,
It's better than a Hugo. I mean, if I got a Hugo, it'd be really cool if it was full of rum. Consider that, World Science Fiction Committee.
Function.
Hugo full of rum.
Mm-hmm. Zivlian in chat says Tiara Tuesday. They have noticed your tiara again on stream. This is the second Tiara Tuesday we've had with Marie.
I know, I feel like
yeah.
I need a tiara now. I'm gonna have to go tiara shopping, but I feel like I can't do that without you, Marie.
I will take you. I will show you the best places. So, okay, it came out this kind of color.
Cheers. Now let's
No, actually, it's kind of working. Like the scotch and the gin are giving a little edge to all of the sweetness from the rum and the frangelico and the elderflower. It's actually quite good.
Marie, have you heard of the YouTube channel Bar Cart Bookshelf?
No. This sounds like something I will do.
Yeah, look it up. It's a YouTube channel. It's run by a fellow named Elias, who I met at ShyCon last year. And he does book reviews where part of the review is handcrafting a cocktail inspired by the book. So he does a YouTube video where he'll talk about the book, he'll give his feelings about it, and then make the recipe or make the cocktail on the video, and then you can go to his Twitter later to read the recipe. It's a lot of fun. I have a feeling that you might enjoy that a little bit.
I love the entire concept. I definitely want to check that out. I've long been a fan of quick sip reviews, and it was a distinct honor when I got reviewed by Quick Sip Reviews. It was for my story, The Single Malt Spacecraft, and I was like, he picked a liquor to go with it, and I was like, oh, I'm so happy. That's exactly what I want. I want a drinking pairing. I don't have a problem.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
At all.
It all sounds correct to me.
No. Actually, I had a friend who's like, I occasionally give up something for Lent, even though I'm not Catholic, but I figure if you celebrate a culture's feasts, you have to do their fasts. And I like Christmas presents, so I also do Lent. And I usually give up alcohol, and my friend says, you managed to give up alcohol for 40 days a week, 40 days a year. I guess that's the only reason I am I am not worried you're an alcoholic. I was like, thanks,
You're
friend.
like, yeah, okay, thanks, I guess.
But I guess I drink a lot around her anyway. Um, but I gave up sugar this year, so I'm not counting the Frangelico.
So I mean, I feel like I have known you through submissions and working with Apex, and you were in Do Not Go Quietly and all of that for a long, long time. But where did Baby Marie author start? Like, what's your origin story?
Baby Marie author wanted to be an author since she was a very, very little baby girl. Um, in third grade, we got to write stories once as a class assignment. It could be up to 10 pages long, so mine was 10 pages long. Most of the other kids, like, they could also do a poem and they could copy a poem if they didn't want. So most of the kids copied poems. And we got to illustrate them, and then we folded the pages and stapled them and put a cover on it. And mine was called Jimmy's Planet, and it was about a little boy who builds a rocket ship and flies into space where he meets two twin alien girls and the monster that lives next door to them, and then he gets scared and goes back home. That was the story. I know. Brilliant beginning for like 10-year-old me. Um, but I was hooked. I was massively hooked. And I went up to my second grade teacher. It was second grade. It wasn't third grade because Mrs. Gencarelli would never say this. This was Mrs. Friedman, name not withheld. I was like, Mrs. Friedman, I want to be an author. And she looked at me and said, that's sweet, dear. You know, girls write better in school because of all the notes they pass, but boys become authors.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I was definitely not giving it up then.
Yikes.
I started collecting all of the scrap paper I could find and folding it into books and writing books. And I used to carry around like a book bag full of my books and try to get people to read them. I was an obnoxious little kid. And then I wrote my memoir in sixth grade because, I figured it was time. And
first of all, I'm impressed that you knew what a memoir was in sixth grade. Like, I know people that are adults that are like, I don't understand what's a memoir. I'm like,
I made it like 3 paragraphs of describing my own life, and then I started introducing science fiction elements. I was a sixth grade student at Perry Middle School, and choir was very important to me, and walking to school was rough, and the weather sucks in Ohio, and I have an after-school job with an intergalactic spy agency. So, and I wrote, and I wrote, and I wrote, and I wrote, and I had hundreds of pages of the adventures of Marie, the intergalactic spy, with my killer robot best friend, who could transform. I watched Transformers, and yeah, it was kind of like a combination between like a mech and a transformer and a snarky robot. Anyway, I loved Celeste. I have published 3 stories with Celeste in them in honor of that. Fast forward a bit, I get to high school. I present like the 3rd draft of my novel to my high school English teacher. She immediately writes me a pass to use the computer lab so I can type it. I become a computer lab aide. That might be why I'm a computer person now. I'm a computer programmer. But back then it was, I ended up running the computer lab in my high school because I was always there to type.
That's amazing, though. You had one teacher who was so discouraging.
Yeah.
And then another teacher that's like, let's get you computer access.
So poo on Mrs. Friedman and hooray for, was it Mrs. Machinga, or who was the freshman? Oh dear, I should remember this woman's name, my freshman English teacher. It'll come to me.
Yeah, I feel that. The other day I realized I couldn't remember my French teacher from high school, and I had her for 4 years. So I'm completely blanking on it.
Completely blanking on it right now. But yeah, my goal at that point was to publish a novel before I turned 18 so that I could cash in on my prodigy status. I sent 3 novels out to publishers throughout high school, and I got beautiful handwritten rejections on like 2 of them. And then I entered the Avon Books Teen Writer Contest and got a form rejection. That was my first form rejection. And I was so pissed because the winning novel was about twin boys who have to compete on the hockey team. And I'm like, God damn it, I'm a twin. I could have written something about twins. Oh, well. I joined the Cajun Sushi Hamsters from Hell writing workshop when I was still 16. I mean, I was serious about being a writer forever from a very young age. I convinced my high school to send me to a local writing conference. It cost like $100. I had to get the high school to pay for it. Because I grew up below the poverty line, is another part of the backstory. Anyway, and I show up at this writers conference. I'm literally the only person under 18 there. And one of the presentations is on science fiction, and it's given by Mary Terzillo, multiple Nebula Award-winning Mary Terzillo.
Mary's amazing.
She's a wonderful woman. She is my writing mom because I attended her thing, and she's like, how many people here have written a science fiction novel? And I raised my hand and I said, I've written 3. And apparently this impressed her because she didn't understand just how horribly bad these were. These were 16-year-old girl novels. I mean, there was the one where I'm a spy in outer space. There was one about a group of kids who travel back in time and fight pirates and then manage to keep the treasure and come to the future, because I hated all those stories where the kids go back in time and don't get to keep the treasure. And what was the third one? The third one was my epic fantasy, which was epic and was about these twin women, these twin female vampires, Yvonne and Yvette, who were both evil but were different sides, and one was pretending to be good. Anyway.
I love it. That is probably the best, like, when did you start writing story that I think I've heard, because it's like it's very, very normal to hear, oh, I've always wanted to write, but you're like, oh no, I was submitting.
I was submitting. And yeah, and Mary Terzillo took me under her wing and invited me to join her workshop. I got to hold a teddy bear during my first critique, where a curmudgeon-y old man named Malcolm told me that my writing was just typing. And I didn't even realize that he didn't even make that up. He stole that. This isn't writing, it's typing. And I'm like, you're talking to a 16-year-old girl. Where are you now, Malcolm? Okay. He ended up getting kicked out of the workshop. I probably shouldn't be spilling all this tea.
Wow.
It's all right.
But
I attended the Atlantis Writers Conference this past November as an editor, and I met a couple of the most amazing young, like, teenage writers there who I was just so impressed with that, like, now I'm like, I want to see what you're gonna do, because you are gonna do, if you're turning in like this amazing stuff and you're pitching to professional editors at like 17, I can't wait to see what you do. So that's really exciting to be like you could be like Marie Vibbert.
No, yeah. Well, the problem is, like, I started pitching to professional editors at 17. I kept doing it for the next 20 years, and I sold my first story when I was 39. But that's the other part of the origin story.
Yeah, but that's amazing. I can't
even count how many rejections I got before then, because I was keeping track in a spreadsheet, and then I lost the laptop, and then I wrote a database, and I was keeping track in that, and then I lost that laptop, and yeah, so I didn't really keep track well before the submission grinder. Give money to diabolical plots.
That's
lots
amazing,
of rejection. Though. So much rejection. Every kind of rejection. I haven't been rejected in person yet. That would be great.
That's hard on this side of the table too.
I know it is.
That's how
No,
people like it's.
I worked as a slush reader, and at first I thought, oh my God, one of my friends, I'm going to claim this and read it. And then I had to reject it. I was like, this
And
isn't
that's
good enough.
hard.
And I was like, and after that, I was like, oop, that's my friend. I can't read that. Can't read that. I don't want that heartbreak again. I don't want to say no to a friend. Yeah.
It is really hard. And the longer you work in genre publishing, the more people you meet and you get to know. And then it becomes harder because they're sending you their stories and you're like, it's not you. Like, I love you, just don't love this story for Apex right now.
And that's a hard thing to learn, and it took me a long time to learn it too as a writer, that it's not they hate me, it's not they hate this story, it's not even they hate this story right now, it's that this story doesn't work right now, and it's not about me as a person, it's not about the story as a story, it's about the fit with the magazine and the time. And it took getting a rejection letter that said, I really enjoyed your story about a stoner rescuing Chiron from Dante's hell, but we already had a story published this week with that theme. And I was like, well, fuck. I mean, that's it. That's the end of it. That was early on. That was like when I was in college that I wrote that one. And I was like, okay, there is no idea you can write that hasn't been done, that isn't going to come up against that. Sorry, we already did that this month.
And I mean, that's absolutely true. Like, I always feel like when I'm writing, because usually if it's gotten all the way up to me, I'm sending out a short, brief reason why I'm passing on it. And I always feel like some author is going to be like, nuh-uh, like, you're like, and I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, there are so many moving pieces that go into consideration with accepting stories beyond, I love this story. Like, I love a lot of the stories that I read, but it may not fit. Like, I might be looking for a specific story to fit an opening in an issue. Like, I might have a word count that I'm looking for, or I might have, even if I love the story and it doesn't fit that issue, what else do I already have waiting to be published? Like, I have to think about all these moving pieces. And I always, every time I send an author a rejection where I'm like, look, I love this story, but considering the length and what it's about and what I already have, I have to pass right now. And I'm always sure the author's going to come back and be like, you liar. And I'll be like, no, I promise.
If you want to throw me under the bus there, you're more than welcome to, because I'm the one that gets on Lesley about getting over on her word counts per issue. I'm like, Lesley, stop loving so many long stories.
Those long ones are hitting right in the sweet spot for me. And I actually had to, because I have quite a few stories that are accepted.
Send Lesley short stories.
Short stories.
Uh-huh.
Like, short stories. Because I've got, like, I actually cringe when our slush team pushes up some longer stories, because I know I'm going to read this story and I'm going to love it, but I have enough longer stories to fill out the rest of this year. And I don't want to be holding stories in March.
Right, when they could send it to another market.
Right?
Yeah.
So, which is what would be happening right now if I accept any more long ones. So yeah, like, honestly, if you guys want like the quick tip on Apex right now, I need shorter stuff. Because Will's mean.
And I'm happy. I'm happy.
Money is a thing. Because money is a thing.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like that's something that doesn't get talked about a lot is, you know, there's a lot of the talking about editing and loving stories and, you know, it doesn't fit with this issue and yada yada. But the other part of that is that at every one of these every publishing house in the world, there is someone like a Will who is behind the Lesley who says, hey, we like this has to make sense business wise also. Like we have to make sure that we're not stacking, you know, our issues full. Like if we do 6 stories that are all 7,000 words every issue, like it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense for us. So, you know, don't take it personally. Don't blame the Lesley, but you can blame the Will.
It's like Tetris. We talk about submission Tetris as authors, but it's like money Tetris as editors, right?
It really is like behind the scenes going. I mean, there's an extra like added difficulty this year because with our last Kickstarter, we solicited 6 stories for the year. So my goal is to have one of those solicited stories in each issue because we have 6 regular issues during the year. Except the authors don't have to turn it into me right now. So I don't like I've already scheduled May's fiction, five of the stories for May, except I don't have that 6th piece. And so I've left myself a buffer, but is the buffer big enough?
Yeah.
So it's like every single issue I'm like, what are they gonna send me?
That's metal. I would not do that. I would be like, no, here's your word limit, bitch. It's worse with print. I mean, with print issues, because as you know, me and analog are like that. And I think a lot of my stories sell to analog because Trevor's like, great, 2,500 words. I had just enough room for that.
Yeah.
And I've had stories that sold like really fast because they were like, oh, I needed something to fill like 1 page and you sent me a flash. Thank you. And
I'll tell you the new issue that just came out today, Levy's story. I mean, it's like he submitted it and I snagged it out in like synonym and acceptance so fast because it's like a 2,300 word story and it fit perfectly for what I needed for March. And I was like, it was an amazing story.
like,
And I just
budget, this much room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, I think he was actually surprised that we turned it around so quick. But at that time I had read like, I don't know, a dozen or more stories that just weren't fitting with the rest of the stories for the issue. And so when I found his, I was like, aha!
Yeah, and then there's the whole thing about like, oh, this issue is feeling very warm and fuzzy, or this issue is feeling very dark and creepy, and you want it to match. And I think that working behind the scenes in publishing, either I've only done it as a slush reader, but I think it is something that's very valuable to a beginning writer. And I'm very grateful to Reckoning and Clark's World, the 2 magazines that I slushed to, for giving me just an eye-opening education on what goes on behind the scenes and how you have to shake it down to fit your final product and make those terrible choices in that final round where everything is really good, actually.
Everything's really good. Like if it gets up to me, it's amazing. It just may not. It's so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and from the newbie author's point of view, they think like I have to be X good. And if I'm above X good, I automatically win. And that's not how it works.
Not at all.
You could have the most wonderful, perfect story that will win awards later, and it's not good for this issue.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a hard lesson to learn, and I'm learning it. And I keep reminding myself of that as every year I'm like, I still don't have any acceptances this year yet. Well, I've had one acceptance this year, but it was a big one, so I'm happy.
Well, and I mean, you got another one coming because Robotic Ambitions will be this year. So.
Yeah.
I know. I hope you like one of the 3 I'm sending you. I've already picked them out, like I said, and one is half written, but I think it's really strong. Okay.
I love it. I'm excited. I'm always excited when I see you come through the Apex Slush, though. Even if I'm like, it's not this one. I'm always excited.
So,
there's
one is about a little boy who tries to become a robot because he thinks being a robot will be better for him. The other one is about caregiver, like nurse aide robots unionizing And then the third one is about a sort of John Henry of a young man competing against AIs in the gig economy. So yeah, that's what I've written. I
I'm
probably shouldn't
excited,
tell you
and
that.
I'm actually very glad that you're sending 3 because
I don't know what
beyond
else anyone
the
else is
does
going to
it
do.
fit theme, does it fit the word count, there's also, when you come to an anthology, like, what else are the solicited authors and what's the slush pile giving us? So 3
Right.
gives Jason and I some options to be like, this one is the most,
If you
fits
get
the best.
15 stories with robots unionizing, yeah, you're probably not going to want another one. Yeah.
I
So
have a.
So
yes.
you said entire anthology, robots unionizing. Okay.
I feel like
So
we're gonna
next
have a lot
Kickstarter.
of unionizing robots.
Solidarity forever.
Uh
Okay.
huh.
I'm
So
I'm such a union brat. I'm sorry.
you also have a story in Strange Libations, which just came out. And for those of you who don't know, Strange Libations is an anthology of microfiction told in the form of cocktail recipes, that was edited by Marissa Van Uden. It was given as a reward in our last Kickstarter to everybody who backed the Kickstarter, and then in Robotic Ambitions, you get a second chance to kind of snag it if you miss it in the Apex Magazine Kickstarter. It's one of our add-ons. But you have a story in Strange Libations. Um, can you tell us a little bit about writing in that format? And then if you wanted to like read it to us, I would be like super excited to hear it. Because like we were saying before we went live, it was really nice to have an Apex project where I get to read it like when everybody else gets to read it rather than ahead of time. So I've not read it yet.
Okay. Yeah, when I don't remember who contacted me and said, "Hey, could you write a flash piece in the form of a cocktail recipe?" And I was like, "Yes." Um, I sat right down, and the name of my piece is Sazerac for the Secret Mouth, and I just kind of spit that out. I was like, what kind of cocktail? What kind of cocktail? Oh, I love whiskey cocktails. Like maybe a Manhattan. No, that'll be too place bound. Maybe an old fashioned. No, I don't want to be time bound. Okay, a Sazerac. Sazerac for the Secret Mouth. And then I just ran with it. And my first draft was just like word salad of things that you would throw into a Sazerac if you could throw literally anything in, ideas, concepts, people. A copy of Catcher on the Rye with sarcastic line notes was one of the first things I wrote down. Because rye, get it. Yeah, I wrote it incredibly fast, and then I sent it to a friend who read it over. I made some tweaks, and then I sent it in, and I was very surprised that it got accepted immediately. Do you want me to read it so you
I
can
would love to hear it.
experience the
Yeah.
extemporaneousness of Sazerac for the Secret Mouth? Start with 5 bridesmaids, each committed to the single life and carrying a jigger of Catcher in the Rye with sarcastic notes in the margins. Have them draw 7 pentagrams inside each other. Do not grade their work. In the center, rinse a goblet in abstinence. And then absinthe, because fuck abstinence. Pack in ice and more absinthe and bitterness and salt-washed kisses. Each of us has a secret mouth in our chest that we don't open for company. One with a rude, probing tongue and gnashing teeth. Open your shirt. Let your secret mouth suck a lemon wedge. It's okay. We're all doing it. Admire our smiles like wounds. Discard the catcher and keep the rye. Strain through telephone voices and weekday smiles and whiskey. More whiskey. There. Now hold each other's naked hearts. Let teeth and tongue tangle, garnish with a twist of fate. There, that's it.
That's amazing. I love it. I love
Pretty
it.
much
That
a
was
poem.
great. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's wonderful, and it wonderfully encapsulates what our like idea for the anthology was. I'm so excited to read the entire book, but yeah, thank you so much.
You're
And
welcome.
So
I was just gonna say, one of the things that Lesley said before you started reading is that this is your second chance to get Strange Libations. More
yeah,
importantly, it is the only, like, you will only be able to get Strange Libations through our Kickstarters now and in the future.
yeah,
So if you don't add it as an add-on in Robotic Ambitions, you'll have to wait until whenever our next Kickstarter is to get it. So
yeah,
no,
yeah.
no
They
pressure
are
or anything.
No
it.
pressure or anything.
Yeah, Strange Libations is a Kickstarter exclusive item. Which I know after it turned out as amazing as it did, we had a lot of conversations behind the scenes, like, can we put it in the store? And I was like, we said exclusive, like, we have to follow through with that. But that you do get the chance to get it as an add-on through Robotic Ambitions, and then after that, we'll see.
Only Will knows.
But I'm very excited. I've
Someday
been hearing
special
a
edition.
lot of amazing things, and I'm super excited to get to dig into it and read it along with everybody else. Maybe I'll live tweet it.
And for those of you who, there's been a lot of rumblings on social media about just how good Strange Libations is, and we heard that, and so maybe you should stay tuned to Robotic Ambitions, because maybe there's more in that vein from Marissa and company. Maybe. I'm not
Yeah,
saying
He's
anything,
not saying anything, but he's gonna like.
but
that's the tease before the tease.
He's a
yeah,
trailer.
yes.
I gotta shout out my friend Todd, who says I'm a great DM in the chat.
Oh, is this
A great
your
D&D GM.
your
Thank you, Todd.
your friend Todd from our other live stream who used to work in the same office as you?
Yeah, he came to this one too. That's my buddy.
Hi,
That's
Todd.
awesome.
He lives in Maine, so we don't actually see each other very often. I live in Cleveland, so in case you were wondering the difference, it's a drive.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of a drive.
A little bit of a drive.
A little bit of a drive.
Just go all the way along the Great Lakes and just keep going across Pennsylvania and New York and up, turn left at Vermont, and yeah.
So just to let everybody have a warning, we have about 10 minutes left in this happy hour. So if you have any burning questions that you want to ask Marie, or any questions about the behind the scenes of selecting stories and everything, since that's what we've been talking about, make sure you put them in the chat so that we can get to them.
Mm-hmm.
Ask me anything, and watch the Nebula Awards.
Yeah, we're gonna wrap up a little bit early on this one because the Nebula finalists announcement is gonna be live at 8 p.m. Eastern, so we're gonna close off like 5-10 minutes early so that we can all settle in for that. I have a question for Marie. Classic Will question, one that I've always got in my pocket. Marie, if you could write any licensed IP, what would it be?
But Marvel, but Star Wars, but Star Trek.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Oh, licensed IP. Oh, I'm gonna go Star Wars just because I really want some more girl Jedis.
Yes. Ahsoka's great.
Ahsoka's great, but we need more. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I really didn't like how they did Phasma dirty.
Yeah.
Um they did Phasma dirty.
Yeah, Gwendolyn
Oh,
Christie was
it's
so underutilized.
it's not that it's the fandom that I like the most, it's the fandom that I think needs me the most.
Mm.
Talk to me, Lucas. But no, obviously, when I was very little, back in my like baby years, one of the things I wrote was a Star Trek parody with an all-female cast, except for the yeoman who was male. This was the original series. Um, I didn't even know what fanfic was back then. It wasn't something I became aware of until many years later. But when I was filling up my notebooks and I was writing, this is what Star Trek would be like if the captain was a girl and the science officer was a girl and the engineer was a girl and the navigator was a girl and yeoman can be a boy, but nobody respects him. And because my family, I grew up in a family of Trekkies. We used to gather around the TV every Sunday at 6 p.m. to watch the original series. And when Next Gen came out, oh my gosh, it was like grandma was very upset. She was like, "That's not Captain Kirk. That's not Spock. Shut up, Ma. This is better, Ma." Anyway, it was great. That's the kind of family I grew up in.
I grew up watching Star Trek with my dad because my dad loved Star Trek. So I was like always watching it with him. And I think even my kids are like, oh, they've watched it with Pappy and stuff. So yeah, Star Trek is kind of where I fall.
Like everyone made fun of Aunt Patty as being the super Trekkie, but let's be real, the whole extended Vibbert clan was
Hmm.
watching, and they all had opinions and favorite characters. So, I mean, yeah, we were the big old working class Star Trek nuts of the east side of Cleveland. True story.
We have another question from chat. Cabal asks, "Will you host more classes for Apex?"
Oh, I definitely will. If they'll have me. I enjoyed the class. I enjoyed teaching a class. I taught a 2-hour seminar on how to submit your fiction. I think it went pretty well. It was challenging to condense everything I knew about submitting fiction into 2 hours and to make it a. I was worried it would be boring.
You've got a
Uh,
lot of experience with that, and it's something a lot of people need help with. So,
I was going to say, I think that because I've gone to our local community college to the creative writing class, and that's basically what I go in and I teach, like a 1-day class of just like submitting fiction. Because a lot of creative writing students, they don't see like the ins and outs and the nuts and bolts of submitting. So yeah, I think that's a really valuable class that a lot of people need help with. Unless you're lucky enough to have a writing mentor who teaches you all of that sort of stuff.
right.
Then it's either trial and error, or you need to find somebody that can kind of say, okay, this is what you need to know. So yeah, I think that's a wonderful, very informative class that a lot of people could use based on my experience reading submissions.
Also, one of the questions was like, can I respond to the rejection and explain how they're wrong? And I was like, no, you can't. No, stop. Never. I'm sorry. It's true. You lost. It's over. Next one. And I was like, I'm so glad you asked. No. Bad boy. Smack. Drop it.
Yeah,
Drop it.
it's
I'm making my dog nervous.
it it is it's hard because I know people want to their stories are their babies,
Yeah,
and
their
and
stories
they
are their
don't.
babies. And when you get a personalized rejection, when they give you a reason, it's almost more tempting because you're like, but here's my reason why that reason is wrong, right? Which is why, honestly, these days I'm like, I'm done with personal rejections. I just want to get a form letter and record it and move on with my life. But
Hot tip for.
I mean, honestly, from my perspective, I would rather send that form letter because
Because it's so angstful, right? To come up
it
with
is angstful, and you worry about hurting someone's feelings, like
miscommunicating. Like,
miscommunicating, and like and hurting their feelings about a story that they care about. And so it's very nerve-wracking, even if it's just a real short, like, this is the place you lost me.
Mhm.
But I know a lot of authors, they want that personalized rejection. So I am trying, but it's much easier to
they do
just.
want that. But yeah, it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? It's
It
a
is,
double-edged
it very
sword.
is.
And even if you give a compliment, if the compliment, even a compliment can be misconstrued, you know?
You can, and I always try it because, like I said, every
Yeah, I like
story
my
that
set. I
I
liked your setting. Didn't you like my characters? You know, it's
Um, I always try because, like I've said many times, stories that are getting to me in the Apex Slush, they're not bad. Like, none of the ones I'm reading are bad. Many times I'm ending it and I'm going, well, crap. Like, I loved that, but it doesn't work for some reason. And I always try to make sure I let the author know, like, I loved this. Like, this really worked for me, but this part didn't. And that's why I have to pass.
as a slush reader, I loved getting really bad stories because when that happened, it was like, oh, easy decision. Nope.
Yeah.
I feel bad, but yeah, I loved getting the bad ones because at Clarksworld there was a quota. You had to read like 20 stories a week because they get thousands and thousands and thousands of submissions. So it was like, woohoo, free money. Well, I don't get paid. Didn't get paid, but
Oh yeah. I mean, our slush readers are amazing. I can tell you, the teams that you worked for as a slush reader, they loved you. Because I love our slush team. They are amazing and invaluable, and I'm always trying to make their life as uncomplicated as possible, because they're doing a huge, like, if everybody was like, nope, we're not reading anymore, I would never. There would never be another issue of Apex because I'd never get through the slush pile.
yeah, I don't know how some magazines do it with the volume they get. That
An
like
amazing team
Sheila
that
Williams
works
at
behind the
Asimov's apparently
scenes.
reads everything herself. I'm like, how? Do you
Mm-mm.
have no life? But I hope they pay her well.
All right, I'm gonna wrap us up here.
Yep.
Okay, thanks
I'm gonna
everybody.
I'm gonna end with a hot tip for everyone. If you get a personalized rejection and you feel that need to write the email back, don't. Unless it says thank you, don't.
Yeah. Yeah, that is the big takeaway.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you so much for being with us, Marie, and I cannot wait to read your stories for Robotic Ambitions. I'm very excited to read all the slush for Robotic Ambitions because robot stories are fun. I mean, a lot of Apex is very heavy and very dark. Um, and yeah, this is going to be heavy and dark too, but also it's robots.
But
So,
also
But
robots.
also robots.
Yes.
yeah.
Tell everybody that I will be at Cleveland Concoction next weekend. If you're in the Cleveland area, it is a convention. Come check it out.
Cool. And
Very cool.
anywhere else you're gonna be, Marie, or anything you've got other than Robotic Ambitions going live soon?
My premiere, my debut novel, Galactic Hellcats, is now available as an audiobook. Galactic Hellcats, a female biker gang in outer space rescues a gay prince. Listen instead of read. Now available at Audible and iTunes. And no, do I have anything else that's coming out? I can't think of anything. Like I said, I'm really waiting for some like positive news on the submissions front, but I will also be attending the Nebula Awards in May in Anaheim. So I'll see Anybody? I'll see my West Coast besties then.
Yay.
Yay!
All
Still no
right.
idea how I'm getting there.
Well, thank you so much for being here with us, and thank you for everybody who joined in and watched, and we'll see you guys next time.
Something, like and subscribe.
Yes, like and subscribe.
Yeah.
Upvote
I'm
me.
really bad at this YouTube thing.
Upvote me. Upvote me. Okay.
Okay.
I will drink anything.